Today on the Warfare Parenting Podcast, we're continuing the raw and painful conversation about adult children who walk away from their parents. In this follow-up with Kathy Cunningham, we go even deeper. What happens when reconciliation doesn't come? How do you grieve someone who's still alive but absent? And how do you keep your heart soft, your faith strong, and your identity intact? If your child has gone silent or severed ties, this episode is for every tear, every prayer, and every long night you've endured. Welcome to Warfare Parenting, faith-driven strategies for struggling parents of teens and adult children. I'm your host, Laine Lawson Craft. You're in the right place if you're battling with prodigal children, facing family crises, or seeking spiritual guidance in parenting. Today, we'll equip you with powerful biblical strategies to reclaim your child's destiny and restore hope in your family. Let's step into this faith-filled journey of hope and healing together. Kathy, we are so excited you are back with us. This is a tough subject. When our children completely disconnect from us, sever relationships, there's a movement that you and I have talked about encouraging this. There's just so much to discuss. Today, we want to go a little deeper and use your expertise. You've built so many resources around this, and we're just going to dive right in. How can parents, Kathy, make peace with estrangement that doesn't resolve?
First of all, I want to say, Laine, this is hard. I don't want to in any way minimize it, say anything that makes it sound like this is an easy journey because it is not. I think it's one of the hardest things a parent can go through beyond losing a child. And it's almost, there's a part of it that's so hard because they are still alive and you're missing out not just on them, but often the grandchildren also. So it is a heartbreaking situation. But the one thing I do want to give parents, as with all these subjects we've talked about, is hope. As long as we are on this earth, there is always hope that things can change. But in the meantime, I realize often there's a waiting period, and that's the hard place. So we need to grieve. We need to understand this is a huge loss in our life, and we have to grieve that loss. And so part of that grieving is going to be really acknowledging that this has happened. It hurts. We have to acknowledge our feelings. We can do that through journaling. I think it's essential that you have some sort of community around this. It's a very hard journey to go on your own. And of course, we're always wanting to bring God into this because God is the one that's going to get us through these really hard times. It's the hope that we have in Him. And so making peace means releasing our timeline to God and realizing that our identity is in Him and continuing to live our life, to find meaning, to find purpose, even in the midst of difficult circumstances.
Well, I talk a lot about the meantime. So, like,
Yeah.
what I mean by that, you offer a prayer,
Yeah.
God, bring our children back, reconcile our family, restore it, and then the answer,
Yeah.
right? And it gets awfully mean in the meantime. And what I mean by that, Kathy, you can get distracted, discouraged, disappointed, really almost in despair
Right.
because that's your child. Well, they may be 30, 40, but they're always going to be your child.
Yeah.
And it is awfully hard in the meantime. And I love that, we are just validating this is a hard subject.
Yeah.
It is not a one and done.
No.
We wish we could just do a magic wand and just make it all better. But it is a process.
Mhm.
And Kathy, do you agree that it does start with us, the healing? I mean, would you say if you're in this situation and you're currently facing an abandonment situation or your adult child has just completely walked away, that you know we got to, like you said, do self-care and things like that to make sure that the healing is there to be had.
Yes, and I talk about this a lot too. What do we do in the waiting? So we're in a waiting period because we're believing this is going to get resolved at one point. But we want to be ready when that time comes. We want to make sure that we're emotionally in a place that we can, like the prodigal father, right? That we can be open and willing to bring them back in to listen, to receive what they have to say, because there probably will be some conversations. So we need to, in the waiting time, be working on us. We've talked a lot about that in these different podcasts, and I know that that's hard, but we always have work to do. All of us do. It's not, we're not picking on anybody. I know I did. And so we, in this time, have an opportunity to become healthy, mature, and ready to be able to have maybe some hard conversations when they come back, maybe to accept them and bring them back in without having a lot of bitterness and resentment, to work through those things in the waiting time. And that's going to be our most important job beyond also living our life and not just putting our life on hold until they come back. No, find meaning, find purpose, find joy, enjoy your life. Yes, you can. Because I hear them out there saying, I can't. Yes, you can. I did it in the middle of an addiction situation for quite a few years. I still went on vacation. I still had a good relationship with my husband. I still had a good relationship with my other children, and you can too. But you've got to work on you to do those things.
Yes, and that's a big encouragement
Yeah.
today. I really, I think we get stuck in
Yeah.
estrangement. I
Yeah.
think we don't grieve. I think that's very important. I think
Yeah.
you validated that you are experiencing grief. I mean, it
Yeah.
is sad. We're saying grieve, and then is there a portion, I can't remember, in the stages of grief, Kathy, that you do start the me care?
Yes, well, with grief, and people have different methods of that. It's kind of changed a little bit, but we do know there's two big places. Well, there's three actually. Bargaining, and that's when we're saying, oh, if I had done that, this would have happening. It's kind of like that fantasy thinking. We've got to get past that. And then we have the anger. We need to acknowledge we're hurt, we're angry, but we need to work through it, not stay there because we can get stuck in that anger. We need to work through that. And then the sorrow, the sadness. And we need to have a place that we can be sad, that we can cry. But again, we don't want to get stuck there. And so it's when we get to a place of acceptance, of saying, I'm not accepting the situation, I'm accepting that this is my current reality. This is where I am right now. And that's where I'm going to begin to enjoy my life. I'm going to find meaning. I'm going to find purpose. I'm going to become the best me I can become in this moment. So there's some things we're going to have to work through to get there. And we need to have some people probably that are going to walk with us on that journey.
Well, how do you guard, Kathy, your heart from bitterness or shame in this journey? That's talked
Yeah.
about a lot. Like you're saying, yeah, I guess bitterness would be anger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
another word for anger and shame in it. A lot of people are embarrassed. Hey, I hadn't talked to my kid in 4 years, and we lay that on ourselves and carry it when we shouldn't, right?
Right, absolutely. I think the bitterness part is again when we let our thoughts just always dwell, whatever we dwell on, that's what we're gonna be, right? So if we're always dwelling on they're terrible, they hurt me, they owe me, how could they do this to me? I see that so much on my Instagram, mainly Facebook. I don't know, Facebook and Instagram are a little different, but Facebook, there's a lot more people on there that have some very negative comments, to be honest with you. But they say things like that, like, I'm tired of it, I'm not trying it, but you can see they've gotten into that negative mindset. And I do understand, I get it. You feel that way, but if you stay stuck there, you're not going to have a good result of getting that reconciliation. So we have to, and it's a biblical thing anyway. We know the Bible tells us that we need to be in control of our thoughts. We need to keep our minds set on the things of God, take our thoughts captive, destroy and demolish anything that is not from God. And saying, negative things about ourselves or our adult children, that is not from God. So we've got to get our thinking, our thoughts in a right place. The other thing that we got to, and we've talked about this before, is letting that failure mentality take place. Like this is all my fault, or I failed. I'm a terrible parent. No, when there's a problem with two people, it's two people that created it, but it often takes one person to start the process of reconciliation. And that, as a parent, we are the leaders. And I think that we're going to be the ones that often are going to have to take that first step. So that is going to be the biggest thing that we're going to have to do to not allow that bitterness to take root, is to really manage our thoughts and to let go of any resentment, bitterness that we do have. Again, hard to do by ourselves. We probably need someone to walk with us on that journey.
Well, when we're talking about reconciliation, Kathy, what does it look like to pray for reconciliation while still staying emotionally stable?
Mhm. I think it's walking kind of in two places at the same time. It's saying, I believe and I'm waiting, and Lord, I'm believing you for restoration, but I'm going to still live my life, find joy, not lose myself. I'm not going to be so consumed in this situation that I don't have a life. And that's like two places we're having to go at the same time. I have a friend, a very good friend of mine who lost her husband. And so, but she has many good things. Her children, she's having grandbabies, and she said there's a collision sometimes of joy and grief. And I
Hmm.
think that's kind of where we have to be okay with being when we're in those situations, so we don't get consumed with grief. There's joy there also, but at times that grief is going to come in, but we balance it with the joy. And we kind of walk those two roads together. And that's just reality. But we also want to hold on to hope and not give up and not say this is hopeless and it's never going to happen. But to keep believing and praying as we're doing our part, that God is working behind the scenes in ways that we cannot imagine or see.
And I would encourage any parent facing this right now. Really, the beginning is, we talked about how to pray for
Yeah.
reconciliation, but just pray. I mean, I think a lot of times in these situations, you disconnect from a lot of things, and
Yeah.
one of them is God. And
Yeah.
so I would encourage anyone today that, really hasn't prayed for anything really, and much less reconciliation. I would challenge you to just begin today. God, I don't know what's going on. I
Mhm.
need you so desperately because I know it's your will, Father, that our family be healed and restored and reconciled. And I just think that would be a great beginning for so many today, Kathy, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't know how people can get through these situations without God. We do, and I think that's why, in AA they talk about, we believe our lives have become unmanageable and we need to give this to God, someone bigger than us. And that's the premise of recovery. And in some ways, we're kind of in recovery ourselves in these situations, and we have to surrender any possibility of us being in control to God, because only He can take care of these things. Only He can change a heart, and often He does, and we have to hold on to that hope.
And we've both seen it, praise
Yeah,
God. Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
So I get a lot of this. I'm sure you do too. How can estranged parents
hmm
respond to the silent treatment without spiraling themselves?
I think first of all, we have to realize we're not going to be perfect, and we have to give ourselves lots of grace. This is a hard situation, and you're going to have moments. I think sometimes when we talk about these things, people feel like, well, if I'm not 100% perfect, then I must not be doing it right. You're going to have some bad days here and there, especially, maybe a holiday, a birthday. Those things are going to come. The goal is they don't consume you like before. They don't take days and sometimes weeks to get over. They happen, you process them, you talk to someone, you pray, you let God, heal you for that moment, and you get back up and you continue your life. So it's not getting stuck again. And I think, again, we have to be careful how much we're feeding into ourselves. I don't know that it's helpful, like to go back to rehearsing old things in our mind. I think a lot of people do that, or even creating stories of what this is going to look like because we don't know. Because most of the time, those stories aren't good. And then we get stuck in anxiety of something that hasn't even happened and probably won't happen. So I think it's those kind of things that we just need to be aware of. And again, keep our mind set on the truth of God, on gratitude, having that grateful spirit and heart about what is happening that's good. We have a lot of good things still in life, even in these hard situations, and we need to focus in on that, and just sometimes just being still with God and letting him just envelop you in his peace and his care.
And I think, Kathy, this just hit me so many times. We get focused on that estranged relationship and forget our other children. We let it
Yeah.
impact everybody in the family. Do you see that?
Yes, and I see that in many situations. I mean, we're talking about estrangement, but we see that with other situations with an adult child. Maybe we have an adult child that's struggling with addiction, and all our energy and all our focus is on that one, where we have these other children that want relationship and want time with us. But especially in the estrangement situation, I think it's so important to make sure we're keeping all our other relationships healthy and staying connected because that's going to help us. It's going to help us feel better in the waiting, and to just continue to remember this is a waiting period. It's not a forever period.
Yeah, and that leads me to my last question, Kathy. What is the difference between waiting in hope versus waiting in anxiety?
Yeah. Well, I think it's the difference between peace and confusion and chaos. When we're waiting in hope, we are depending on God. We've surrendered it to Him. We realize we don't have any control over this, but we do have control over ourselves. And we're going to work on the areas that are keeping us either in anxiety or keeping us from having the healthiest responses. It's such a great opportunity to really take care of those things in our lives. When we have hope, we can stay steady, we can stay peaceful. It frees us to live fully. Anxiety does not. Anxiety keeps us in a constant state of confusion. It's exhausting. It will wear us out. And truly, it will hurt us physically.
It will. It
Yeah.
will. Kathy, you have talked a lot about community in this estrangement specifically because it is hard and there are a lot of factors
Yeah.
that fall into this. You have so many resources. Would you mind taking a few minutes and telling us how we can find help and where we can find you?
Yeah, so you can find all my resources at kathycunningham.org. It's my website. And for this one, I really feel I have something called Grace Restored Membership. And if you are facing a situation of estrangement with your adult child, there is so many resources I have in there for that. There's 10 plus, it's a library of courses that will really help you not just navigate that situation, but help you with how you're feeling, walking through the grief, the what I call the silent ache that we have inside. What do I do with that? How do I manage that? We also have a community in there, and many, many of my parents in that community are in that place of estrangement right now. And they support each other, they talk to each other. And then we do have a support group where you have that opportunity to talk and share and be with like-minded people. And then every month I do have a live teaching of some sort. You've joined me on that. And
Yeah.
so it's a low monthly fee. You can cancel at any time, but I would encourage people to try it out. I think it would give you that sense of I have a mission right now. I have things I can work on. I have people I can talk to. I think it would really be helpful for a lot of your viewers that maybe feel a little isolated out there. It's a good start point.
And I want you to talk about addiction because a lot of times, this addiction of your child is really what propagates the
Yeah,
estrangement because
yeah,
it separates you because you've put a boundary, praise
yeah.
God, and said, I love you, but I can't tolerate this in my home or, whatever that boundary may be. Tell us a little bit about do you agree to that? Do you think addictions do sometimes create this estrangement? And then tell us a little bit about that group that you're a big part of.
Yes, they do. And often it's not the parents, it's the adult child that they get mad because maybe the parents aren't financially, giving the money anymore. And so they'll just break it off for a while. And so that is one thing. Sometimes I always try to encourage parents to stay in some sort of contact, even if it's just a text to say, I love you, I believe in you. I think we always want to keep that open door if we can. But if the relationship becomes abusive or harmful, sometimes we have to set those boundaries for a while until they get some help. So, in the midst of that, we need to be in a community of parents that have an addicted loved one, an addicted adult child, with like minded people walking that same journey. My husband and I facilitate a group. We've been doing it for 7 years called PAL, Parents of Addicted Loved Ones. You can look them up at palgroup.org. They have different groups all around the country, and they have some Zoom groups also. But it's a great group because it actually is curriculum based, and they give you tools on how to navigate this really, really difficult situation.
Well, Kathy, I ask every episode, is there anything lasting that you would like to share with us about estrangement?
It's probably going to sound like a broken record, but first of all, don't give up hope. I have seen so many situations personally that there was an estrangement, and as the parents worked on themselves and did their part and just began to live life, that adult child came back and there was reconciliation. So there's always hope. But the second thing is, as we've talked about, in the waiting, number one, work on yourself, work on any wounds or unhealed places, but then take care of yourself. Don't give up on your life. Live your life to the fullest. Go on vacation. Get the pedicure, do the hobby that you love. Don't let your whole life get consumed by the situation. Surrender it to God and let Him be the one to carry that for you.
So good, Kathy. So good. Listen, your child may be out of reach, but never out of God's reach. Even in the silence, even in the distance, God is still writing your family story. You are not a failure. You are not forgotten. You are still a parent with power, and your prayers still matter. Keep your heart open, your hands lifted, and your hope alive. This may be the hardest chapter, but God still holds the pen. Kathy, thank you for all of these episodes, for all of your valuable time and all of the wisdom you've shared. We've got now 8 episodes in the Warfare Parenting queue that I know you want to hear every one of them and listen to them again. And I want to encourage everyone to join Kathy's programs, her courses, because I know for certain many lives are being changed and families are being healed. Thank you, Kathy, so much.
Thank you, Laine. It's been a privilege and an honor.
Thank you for joining us on Warfare Parenting. Remember, you can overcome even the most challenging parenting battles with faith and the right strategies. If this episode has touched your heart or provided valuable insights, please subscribe to our podcast and leave a review. Your support helps other struggling parents find the hope and guidance they need. Until next time, remain steadfast in faith and remember, together we never give up on our families. Visit my website too for my new book, Warfare Parenting, a daily battle plan to fight for your child. The first 10 days are free on my website and many other free resources. Go to LaineLawsonCraft.com.